Good morning, LinkedIn friends, and welcome to day 9 of our Value First Framework series. I'm Chris Carolyn, and I'm here with Matt Bolian. How you doing, Matt?
What up, world and Chris? I'm doing great. It's a good day.
A lot of change, man. A lot of speed in the market, and nobody else I'd rather be talking to about the specific topic today, about really to get to a value first culture. But a little background here on how this framework came together, right? Starting with traps like the leads trap and the AI replacement trap, and all these things that I found get in the way of true transformation, that's needed right now. And as I'm, working on it with Claude, I get to the point where it's like, okay, well, all these things are great, but we know that if the culture is not there, if leadership's not there, like none of this can happen, right? So I come up with value first culture first. And so the way it works, there's always a trap and then there's a value first, manifesto with it. But I didn't know what the trap was, right? So I asked Claude, I was like, what other traps could go with these other things? And when it came up with conformity trap, I was like, wow, like there it is. And of course, as I'm developing this, we've got 10, brilliant experts involved. And I'm figuring out like first of all, like always want to be collaborating with Matt whenever possible. But when I look at the list of what Matt, could speak to, man, how about the conformity trap, man?
Crispy is Christopher Barnett, and he goes by Crispy. I think he changed his LinkedIn name, but Crispy do a podcast called Durable by Design. In our last episode, we ended with this metaphor, and it goes with this. And it just came out, and not that this is graphic, but it is maybe it speaks to this. Like even using the metaphors, it is. We're talking about what is one thing marketing agencies do poorly, and I'd say this in organizations do poorly. And it's like when you're going through, you're walking around, say you're in a pasture, and you see horse poo, or cow poo. You're like, what that is. You're like, that's cow poo. And you see a little bit of grass, and you see another thing of cow poo. You see another thing of cow poo, and nothing like it doesn't surprise you. And some of the conformity trap you're going to see, it's like, well, I belong in the pasture, I should be a piece of cow poo. I'm like, no, you need to emote, you need to create emotion. Like you should be like you should be a giant pile of I don't know what the freak that is. And it'd be like it stinks. Like we got an animal in here, and that's not a cow. And that gets people like, and so there's this conformity is that can be applied in many, many different places and that's like a weird one, but there's a reality of to be known well often means to not look like others, but not for the wrong reasons. And so that's where you can get, this is where there's a lot of nuance in this. It doesn't mean just don't conform. In fact, I'm a pretty standardized person. People are like, what? I'm a pretty standardized person.
Yeah. Well, right. It's like a different type of innovation, right? Because oftentimes, and what we're going to talk about today, all of this is what gets in the way of moving from an industrial age mindset, which I feel is what really holds organizations back from not being able to make common sense decisions that are just slapping them in the face right now. It's always been that way with HubSpot, in my opinion, but also now AI more than ever, right?
Yeah. And even doing conformity trap. So I don't know where anyone's opinion sits on this right now, but I just give Super has no AI in it. And on purpose. And I know I just would sit with that for a second. Like even conformity, like we have deliberately not done that because everybody puts a magic wand in something that dilutes the value of what you're doing. And so like we are building AI, it's just not putting out front right now. It's just like even to those extents, like you can't just don't conform with what everyone's doing. Have an opinion, know what you're doing. So
yeah. And because that leads to, even your platform, like the thesis here is that conformity, usually when culture, right? it tries to be executed. Like, oh, we're going to have a standard. We're going to create our own culture code, blah, blah, blah. The standardization that gets executed fights the human potential inside of the organization, right? And it's because we've like these industrial age assumptions about we need predictability, we need control, like we need to know what's going on in our management systems, HR processes, and now even our collaboration tools. So the way, like when you get people, it's very exciting to get an organization into the LinkedIn motion, because that's a big step for most teams. But then when they just like they can't be themselves, it's like, what are we doing? Right? We're doing all this work. We've done the work to get everybody involved, and now they can't show up the way they need to. So then you don't get the results you're looking for. And then it's like, okay.
And then you say it doesn't work.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, set up to fail.
So we're going to start with the need framework. And again, credit to George for planting this seed a couple weekends ago to just really kind of formalize, because this is a transformative, framework that we're talking about, like to move into the age of AI. Like this is the first time we've had an age of AI. So almost all, and this is what I heard yesterday at the AI Summit, some of the panels saying your experience no longer matters, right? Because everything you've experienced was in this just different world that, if you try to bring those ideals forward into the age of AI, like it's just not going to work for you, right? So that doesn't mean we're jumping to AI for every piece of this pillar, but the mindset of what we know AI enables around us and for our people is we got to get out of these traps, right? So the need framework tries to make it a little more tangible of how we can observe that we're in the trap and what we can do to get out of it, right? So need stands for natural, enhanced, elevated, and distributed. And we're going to go through that, real quick. So we've already talked a little bit about the control, right? And this prevents natural collaboration. So the N, natural collaboration versus artificial control, forcing people into predetermined behavioral templates. What does either side you want to talk about this, but we want to get to natural team collaboration, right? So what does that look like instead? And, why are people prevented from getting there?
Yeah. When I say nuance, so I'm gonna put there's like a nuance to these things. And the question is, how do we get to natural collaboration? And there's some frameworks, collaboration, what that is not is consensus. And so consensus can destroy organizations because then you can't move or make decisions fast. So like you still have these like structures of someone has to make it, someone's bearing the burden, someone has to pay payroll. Like there's still like things that aren't going away. And so I think it's important to know, like there's reality of there's still structure. When I think about this, I'm gonna put this guy I'm looking as, I'm actually a really big believer in behavior-based standardizations. Now, but I think it matters. But and we'll talk about that in the next one in the enhance, because I think it's like enhancing versus dependency. But when I think about natural collaboration, one of the things I think leads to this the most in an organization is how you hire. It's how you hire. So traditional hires, like this old mindset and this idea of controlling, the way you think about it is like, I need a head count. And why you need a head count is because you think you need to do more work. And because you need to do more work, I need somebody. Like, okay, well, give me, what will that person do for you? And so then you have to do all these. Okay, well, they're going to execute on this. And then you create a job description. And that job description is a left and right limit. They're hired into that job description. And then they come in. And then from the employee perspective is, if you say you have a marketing team of 3, that person has no upward mobility. And the only way they can is to then jump jobs into another job description. So like the world where I'll say how we do it, it's supered. And it's not like we're some novel idea. I think some of this is the reality of we're bootstrapped, so we just approach problems differently. And we're actually deliberately bootstrapped because in the world of AI, I don't want to solve problems with people. So I'm like forcing us to have scarcity that will force us to do the right things, like right now. So we don't even, so because of that, okay, we can't hire based on any type of control. We can't predict our revenue, not necessarily, right? We can only hire when it's so much pain. And we don't know what the pain is, right? Okay, we have a problem in the business and we need to fix it. And there's a reality, and I think we'll be moving to this, especially in the age of AI, where the assumption that I'm going to throw a person, I think it was already a bad assumption, but it's the assumption itself is being revealed. I'm going to throw a person at a problem, and that will solve it. It's even less true than it was if it had any truth to begin with. And now, if a person says, "I need that," I'm like, well, are you? Why? You're going to just get asked more questions. So problem-based hiring until it's too painful. And then when you do the left and right limit of the problem, it's never the assumption that it's going to stop there. You're coming in to fix a problem, and you want problem solvers in your organization, not job descriptions. Which that's and even at the assumption level, that becomes there's more modality at the company level for upward like you can do different things because you're a problem solver versus a job description, which changes so much. Like that just fundamentally changes how top thinks about people and how the bottom sees what they can do.
Yeah. And I didn't plan to reference the AI Summit so much, but it's on my mind because it was yesterday. But this is in alignment with what they're saying, like the days of supporting scalability with headcount are over. And more important than ever, you need the type of human being that can problem solve first more than any other skill.
And I'm sure you got it somewhere, which is in direct competition with what AI does to human brains. Right. Which is in direct competition to what it makes. You need a problem solver, but you don't need someone that regurgitates AI crap to you. So it's interesting where I'm really excited about it, is what I say. It's like, because I think we're gonna hit some kind of how do we create humans outside of AI so that they can use AI better? Like there's gonna be a route of that.
Yeah. And that's where the the first E, enhanced human capability versus dependency, right? And standardized development paths and performance reviews, and it's built off of that situation you just described, where it's like, okay, here's the box you're going to be in. Now we're going to build all this stuff around it, and don't ever look outside of that box. Like, you certainly won't be rewarded. You might be reprimanded, and stay in your lane, all these things. Like, people just can't be themselves. And, if they're going to stick around, there's nothing worse seeing dependency mode, right, in people.
Yeah, okay, of the things we're talking about, this is the one the word feel, but I would get to the close of there's a desire for me to say no on this one. So I'm gonna stay in the feel. Do I feel or do I know? I am convicted about this. It's probably in the middle ground, and it is. So we use a framework at Super. I've done this at RP as well, and so RP grew from when we started 3.3 million in 1 year. Now that is faster than SaaS companies. We grew with 30 people in a year, and then we doubled that again, right? And then we went, and then we doubled, and then we went again. Recreating humans is hard, and that is actually the thing I'm most passionate about in this entire world. It's recreating humans. And the framework that I sit with, and I love frameworks, and I think how do you make people be able to solve problems is actually a company issue, and it's going to be, the burden of that is not on the person, it's on the company. And it sounds odd. That's how I think about this. It's on the company level, because what you dictate at the company will either restrict or not restrict, and you will assume these behaviors. So it's actually just by nature behavioral. So there's a framework by Patrick Lencioni. I love this. It's called 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. He also wrote a book almost prophetically called The Advantage, Why Organizational Health Trumps Everything Else. Doesn't matter about your tech, doesn't matter about, only thing that matters is culture, what we're talking about today. Like, besides everything else, the only thing that ever matters, and it only matters, can people own the thing they're doing and solve problems. So anyway, 2 great books, go read those, life-changing. His framework of 5 functions of a team are, it's just simple. It's a little pyramid thing. To get trust, you must be vulnerable. So everybody has to be, you can't be impressive and known. You have to pick one, and you must be, and in our organization, we're going to pick to be known, not impressive. Like, the more you know about me, the less impressive I am. You know that I get angry fast sometimes, and I cut people off for no reason. Like, there's things I have to work on with myself, and I have to like be vulnerable enough to say I suck at them. If you have vulnerability, you must be able to do the next one. Have passionate conflict with people, because if you trust, you're going to conflict. So that means living a bit in the messy. That means things are interesting. I can say, no, I think you're wrong, because you live in this layer of trust. And the only way you can, that's the only way you can get what? Commitment, because people have conflict, and the way you, and commitment requires conflict. And then the way to get, another way to commit, and if you have commitment, then you can have accountability. And if you have accountability, you can actually have team-based results. And so there's a lot of behaviors that fit within that. And almost every org I've ever been in just doesn't even trust each other. And so they don't have conflict. And so there's no commitment. And I mean by that's like, well, I didn't say yes to that. I just kept my mouth closed. Of course, I knew that wasn't going to work. And I tell you right now, the only way a good plan, bad plans are good plans if executed violently by a bunch of people in the same direction. And a good plan's a bad plan if not executed violently. And so like this is humanity, and this portion of humanity will never stop being true. And so
yeah,
at both orgs we have something called operating principles. I'll stop there. It's just like this is something I feel very like. If you like, what is our competitive advantage of any of these orgs? It's this.
Yeah, and like, man, the whole goal of this framework is to help people do these common sense things in this direction. Yeah, because like as you just say it out loud, where do orgs start? They start with the results.
You can't do that, and you can't do that. It must be at the trust level first, which means the leader, you have to say. Sometimes this means saying, "I am wrong. I just led us in the wrong direction because of my stupidity in bed, my lack of ability. I'm gonna have to fire 5 people." So you have to say things like that. You have to be willing to own it, not this corporate jargon that often occurs.
Yeah. And so they start with results, then they skip accountability. Yeah. They ask for commitment, right, to the plan to get the results. We're going to go from 50 boxes sold to 100 boxes sold, and you don't need to worry about why we picked 100. Just sounds good. And then we skip over the healthy conflict and ask for blind trust, right?
Yes.
And this creates learned,
but it should be rare, and people should trust you enough when you ask for it. They're like, "Hey, I don't know what's happening, but the people I trust said do it," and they've earned, like there's some kind there's a reality to that. So,
right? Yeah, you'll usually get one shot. Like when you you have a decent hiring plan and you bring in good people. They're like, okay, this must be how it goes here. We'll give it a go. But then when it doesn't, it leads to learned helplessness, because I can't there's no healthy conflict opportunity. We're not holding each other accountable. So I'm helpless to solve for this situation. Right.
I'm going to show something, and I don't know if this is off, if this is the wrong thing. I know it's possible. Is it possible for me to present something?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Sharing screen. I'm going to share my entire screen. I'm going to share this one. I'm going to move you off of it. Okay. Sure. Am I sharing screen?
Yep.
Okay. So this is this simple. So we don't believe in values. We believe in values.
Zoom in a little bit.
Let me zoom in. Let me zoom in. Let me do it this way just because I want to. I'll show super a bit more. Okay, so I can put it on a super card and lens. Okay, so we don't believe in operating and values, because values are just like words, and one person means clear, it means I talk without using the word but, and another person means clear and they mean the window being transparent. So you just have to define things, like you can't not. So one exercise I would recommend everybody does for this is, what's a human you like working with, and why do you like working with them? And it's going to be behaviors. They always own what they say, they commit, they follow through when they do so. There's always these like behaviors. And so we talk about standardization this is things we do for us internally that matters. I know, and some of these seem asinine. It's like, hey, if you don't want to work at Super, then you don't like these things, don't work here. But like this is the set based standard. So like I'm doing right now, when I'm running a meeting, you're going to share notes and you're going to share your screen. And it has some down, like okay, there's some reasons for that, right? Recaps. After every meeting, you send a recap. I start every meeting with a bluff. I communicate in percentages, like, hey, I'm 9 out of 10 convicted on this. We ask yes, no questions. Hey, Chris, did you do that thing that you committed to last week? We have a very specific way we do formatting, which looks like this. We over communicate. Every meeting we do, you end with, do you have any questions or concerns? We acknowledge things both verbally with received and in Slack. There's some other stuff here, right? They're very specific. Conflict. We never agree to disagree. I literally permission. If you ask me for permission, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. Like, why? If you think it's a good idea, why the freak haven't you done it? In fact, I'm angry now that you've asked me permission. And so we talk about these behaviors. There's some prescription. And what's the way to get, like, what's one bad thing at Super? If someone comes to me and says, well, I really thought that was a good idea, but I'm really coming to you. I'm like, why do you not believe in yourself? Well, it's because I don't really trust. So you don't trust me. Like, I need you to go fail. You own 51% of that. Go. Well, I was waiting for somebody. What do you mean by wait? Wait's not real. What's your plan? It's not their fault you haven't done it. It's your fault you haven't done it. I'm here for you. Let's go. So it's just like, there's some things, this matter way more than we think they do. And so then we have this, and we actually do a quarterly review as a performance review, and it has nothing to do with performance. It has only to do with behaviors. And we go through these. So I just think it's helpful. Just give some practical, like, this is what I mean by very practical.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. It's basically the opposite, or it's avoiding learned helplessness at all costs imaginable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's something that has shown up in all the conversations, is that most of these traps, almost all of them, lead to a level of learned helplessness. And that's at the core of dysfunction, when you have people that you aren't enabling to the point where, I mean, I come from places where, trying to show somebody HubSpot or implement it, they're all in, right? They're bought in, and we pull up HubSpot on their 5-year-old laptop, and it's not working well. And it's like, have you asked for a new laptop? It's like, yes. The answer was no. Like, so I just stopped asking for things that I need. And it's like, now the new things, like a 15-minute training takes an hour and a half because HubSpot's not loading properly.
Yeah, there's something about, because people can see what I just showed, and like, Matt, that's a lot of behaviors. Isn't that the opposite of, aren't you asking people to conform? And this is where, like, this is the nuance. I'd be like, I'm asking people to conform to believing in themselves. Yes. And so I actually, there is and this is a base standard. And if you're not willing to forgive, if you can't say I'm wrong, like, you'll be fired from Super, because that's not conformity. That is growth. And so we have a standard of growth, and you could say we've conformed to the standard of be uncomfortable and grow. And I think, especially in AI, I think it's even more important. It's not less important. It's going to be more important, because people are more enabled, and like, this is going to atrophy and entropy by nature, us as humans. You could, I mean, if you went any, that there's entropy in and of itself is the organization will slowly degrade unless there's some standard to be held to. And so in the past, you would dictate activity. I'm not dictating activity. I'm dictating behavior, which is totally separate. So.
Yes. And that's, of course, segues perfectly into the next E, elevated value creation versus optimization. Uh, and again, one of the cores of this framework is we need to move from optimization to transformation, right? And when you are dictating activity, like Matt just mentioned, it's usually because you think you're optimizing process by standardizing for that thing, and it eliminates the opportunity for elevated value and breakthrough innovation and all the things that people want. They inherently want to do that stuff. And like at the lowest level, like when you look at your people, and it's so sad to hear this from leaders, because even in that situation with the 5-year-old laptop, like that person is in a position where clearly they don't matter that much if they're allowed to just take a long time because they don't have the tools they need.
It's like it goes
right?
mental.
And then when you ask leadership about that person's value, basically, as you're having these conversations of why they can't do new things or we can't consider them, and it's like, oh yeah, they just do data entry, like, and it's like, because you ask them to do that. Yeah, it's the position you're putting them in. All they can do to help the organization is do data entry. And even at that level, those people are often closest to the customers. They have the best ideas when it comes to new experience.
Often.
Yeah.
My I'll give you an example of this. And so one of this is this idea of okay, so you can optimize. So I'm a big believer in process compliance, right? You'll see I have we have a standard, and we are optimized. Like so, period. I think, and I don't know how to communicate this well. And I'm looking at this because there's like this innovation. There is so much danger in optimizing for the wrong thing. So I'll give 2 examples. Example number 1 would be I'm in marketing and I optimize for an activity. And activity in marketing would be maybe it's how many demos were booked at a trade show. And that's the only thing that matters. And because I have to show the ROI of this trade show within a 3-month or a 6-month standpoint. So what I do is I have to do demos booked. If that's all I care about, innovation is stifled. Because instead, I've literally made a different framework. But I believe in frameworks, and I comply to the framework. And you're going to be standard. We call it and I don't like to curse, but I'll curse here just for this, is what the fuck framework. I was like, I'm that angry about it. I'm like, okay, guys, you will not talk about it. And literally, the only thing you're trying to do at this trade show is to create moments where people say, WTF is happening over there. And we have it from 50 meters. What WTF, what's happening over there? So it has to be like visually far away. And you need one thing, a CTA that's 5 meters that says, did that just happen to me? And if you do those 2 things and you have a cohesive theme with a dress and not a costume, but we call them a uniform that complies with the theme, you'll win and you will get more demos. And a secondary will be if you create WTF moments where people are like, who is that? I need to go talk to them. You will get more demos. But I didn't optimize for demos. And that's true for like so many things. And it's just, and you optimize for how you make people feel versus trying to conform to some kind of activity where the finance managers often live, and they stifle innovation. Number 2, number 2 is that same exact thing happens with sales. And probably the most perfect example is I want somebody to create a revenue number. This person here is the best rep that we have. And the thing that I see this rep doing is they just do more activities than everybody else. So what we're going to do is we're going to now manage everybody to a number of activities completed. And that will be the standard. And that literally stifles all innovation because now people are, did I do all the activities that I need to do? And in reality, the person that does less activities and more revenue, so activities per revenue is probably a better ratio to have. because you can learn more. So there's like both these things all are true. Like both these things. If you optimize for the wrong things, just for compliance and not the way you make people feel. So instead, create a sales framework that makes people feel a certain way. So yes, you may have a lot of activities, but it's because you always send a recap. It's because you touch them every 3 days. It's because you provide value, and you may have a lot of activities, but not because you're measuring activities.
Yes.
So that's what I mean. Like it's all based on the
Right. You're focused on the relationships and adding value, creating value.
yes. And
In
then use
authentic.
AI to do that. But don't start with, if you start with AI, you
Right.
actually will destroy it.
Yeah. Like
You can do more activities.
You force maintenance that is focused on enabling this system that is optimizing for all the wrong things. And that's how we build out almost every damn CRM implementation, right?
Yeah.
And then we wonder why brilliant salespeople are like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I'm just going to go win deals over here by managing the relationships the way that I know works and leads to great relationships, right?
Yep.
Oh, man. And that's really like, so in that scenario, like for our last D, for the D in need,
Yep.
right? Sales people, and I'm just thinking about this out loud right now. There's so much value in understanding why they're able to win without all the tools and tech and everything that they're supposed to be using to be efficient, all this stuff. They are forcing distributed empowerment because they have the quota, right? Their paycheck rides on it. So you might not empower me, but I'm empowering myself to go get the deal done instead of relying on all these systems that are trying to centralize like dependency so we can be managed and we can manage activity.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So I have two examples here because I sit in this world a lot. And by the way, I was just say Super is actually built this way. It's like this is one of the premises is that for partners, right? We help partners do things, and it's about create an experience. Stop worrying about project management. Nobody as much, and standardize your delivery vessel and standardize your experience. And it is so freaking hard to teach people and convince people of that, Chris, because it's actually easier that way. Anyway, I'll get off that. If you're talking about like this distributed empowerment, salespeople have a quota, and thus they do whatever the freak they need to do to win. There's a book. I love frameworks when they are optimized for the right thing. There's a book called Challenger Sales, and it goes through this. You have the lone wolf who just wins and nobody knows why, and he just goes off and doesn't do anything, doesn't log anything. You have the relationship person, which is the lone wolf's not the relationship person. You have the relationship person. Then you have the activity master, and then you have something called they call him the challenger. And they have found over and over the challenger wins. And the challenger is, and there are things you can do to recreate challengers. But if you create activity people or you teach people just relationships, they actually lose. So like the best relationships and the people that you do are experts that know fields. Anyway, I'll sit with that. Like there's a reality you can standardize, just don't standardize around piss poor ideas. Something I get asked a lot is how do you get your entire team to post authentically on LinkedIn? How do you do that? Because this is like distributed empowerment. Like, how do I? Because this is the question. I've tried to tell people to do it. I've tried to get like, how the heck? Like, I just saw like a video here and a video here, and literally my employees get text saying, "You're doing what I wish all my employees did." So how does that occur? So, number one is I think it's up front. We do have a standard. I say, hey guys, if you want to work at Super, my expectation is you will contribute to content because marketing and sales is no longer the burden of 2 to 3 people. It's the burden of everybody because the brand is the people that work there. Thus, you will contribute to content. Are you okay with that? And if you're not, you can't work here. So I start with that. I think like that's a hiring thing. Right? And here's the problem, because I need you to talk about the problem you're solving all the time. Are you okay with that? Yes. No. No. Can't work here. Yes. I can't work here. Great. Okay. They're like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, I don't care what you post. Like, I'll show you how I do it. So I have this thing. I'm like, I just post about the thing that made me angry that day. Every day. And I could right now post about anything we've talked about. I could post about this right now. And you're literally nothing, you're a content machine. You just don't believe in your own voice. And what's happened is by doing this, people have come up with things. They've actually gotten better at their jobs because they're doing it. And it's this, and I think it's just an element of distributed empowerment means I will not tell you exactly what to do. I will only give you the principles in which to do them and expect you to fail and do your best. I only expect you to do your best. I expect you to try. I don't expect you to be perfect. So that's it. I'm just like,
yeah. No, and that's where like when we get these levels of engagement that I talked about before, like all the work done by culture teams and HR and all this stuff, it's like you haven't actually changed the culture. Like if that's how people are presenting themselves, right? Because it's not themselves. It's the company version or the approved version.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You must be comfortable with, and like, let's get into the nitty gritty of that, right? If somebody has a belief that say, I don't believe it, because the reality is you have people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different places, different religions. And to assume that we're going to have the same beliefs is not naive, it's ignorant, right? Okay. So what does that mean? And does that mean that like, let's say, and let's just do, this is Pride Month, right? Right. And so let's say you have people that some people don't, there's a reality. You have a swath of America. You're going to have people that agree, people that don't agree, people that get angry, people that do. Would the company, and sometimes you have companies, would the company come and say, I'm going to force you to talk about pride, because if you're not a culture fit. That's a bad idea, guys. I'm telling you now, you will destroy, and actually happens a lot of the time. And the other way, if you do this, you're bad. No, they have their individual beliefs for their own reasons. And so I actually am much more a fan of companies not doing that and allowing the individual companies to express their beliefs. And when you do it from the company level, you actually, and this is one of these centralized dependencies here, is if you do that from the company level, you actually stomp on people's individual beliefs, because the company believes this. Now, if I come out of it, I'm not going to be in the right way, and I get worried. And what does that do? It decreases your trust. So people say I'm crazy, like, oh, well, your company should stand. Like, I stand for my people. I don't stand for this thing, and which means I stand for a whole lot more. So I just that's what it get. That's one of the manifestations of those beliefs, right?
Right. And so we're going to run through the value first culture vision here with 7 commitments that I'm going to read through, and then we'll get some commentary from Matt at the end. But just imagine, because these traps are real, right? We know it's hard internally if you're inside one of these organizations. Like the whole goal of this framework, if you're already experiencing these traps, is to give you a way to talk about them, meaningfully in the organization that can lead to change, right? Because leaders need help from everybody in the org to understand what's causing friction and how to move forward. They want to move forward, but feel like they can't in a lot of ways because of all of this industrial age infrastructure that's been built and all these standards, right? So these 7 things, imagine saying these by the end of the year and believing in it with every fiber of your being at your company. Number 1, we will nurture natural energy rather than enforcing standardized engagement. We believe humans naturally want to contribute meaningfully when connected to purpose and enabled to use their strengths. Number 2, we will celebrate experimentation rather than punishing variance. We believe innovation requires the freedom to try new approaches and learn from both success and failure. Number 3, we will foster authentic belonging rather than enforcing culture fit. We believe diversity of thought, background, and approach creates resilience and innovation when integrated into a community of shared purpose. Number 4, we will enable transparent communication rather than managing information flow. We believe that people make better decisions with more complete information, context, and understanding. Number 5, we will respond to emergence rather than merely executing plans. We believe that the most powerful opportunities often can't be predicted in advance. We commit to creating adaptive systems that can recognize and respond to emergent patterns rather than rigidly following predetermined paths. Number 6, we will honor natural growth patterns rather than enforcing standardized development. We believe each person has unique strengths, interests, and development trajectories. We commit to supporting that. Number 7, we will cultivate meaningful connection rather than managing transactional relationships. We believe genuine human connection creates the foundation for collaboration, trust, and resilience. We commit to creating environments where authentic relationships can develop naturally rather than treating interactions as purely transactional. And everybody's challenged with that one because it's not to be measured. It's not to be like, you literally have to accept the fact that that situation you described about how people show up on LinkedIn, it's you doing a bunch of things that we're talking about here, but just creating the space for it to happen, right? Like in the serendipity of it all, the create your own luck of it all these things, like when you can just let that in, all of a sudden, you know, people start showing up as themselves, and like you as an organization, you just move beyond what has been. What are there any of these that resonate with you, you know, more than the rest?
Yeah, a lot. They're all pointing towards. You know, a lot of these resonate with me. One of the things that if I was putting this, I'd be like very specific that I think was missing, and I think these all point towards is at its core. And I think it starts in that the dysfunctions, which is the idea of trust, the idea of being vulnerable, which a lot of these say like I would just say this: vulnerability is the bedrock of any culture, to the extent that like if I was to measure something in culture, I would measure how many times people admit they're wrong and reconcile. And the act of, and this is what I mean. People have to fail, and they must feel, and it's okay to have a high standard. But people must have the ability to say, I think this is best, do it, fail, get feedback, and then them be able to say, you're right, I was wrong, thank you, I've learned. And if those words do not occur, I was wrong, you're right, I'm grateful, none of what you just said will happen.
Yeah, it's amazing how much of this is just like, are you focused on building trust in all the ways, like internally, externally? Like if you're doing any activity that you can't say, this is going to build trust in some way with whoever's on it, like why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I was really bad with Chris. Chris has been trying to organize this. He's asking me for feedback. He's like, going to show up. He had to send me over and over again. I didn't respond to him. I'm like, I am sorry, Chris. I did bad. Like this is like, and you just can't, it's not acceptable. Right. And I would even hold myself to a different standard and just come to you and say, I'm sorry. And like, you got to do that all the time. And you're always going to be failing at something. Just admitting it and asking for forgiveness is how you create relationships.
Well, I forgive you, man, because I trust that you are going to show up. Like if at some point in the previous past you said, I will be there for this, I know you're going to be there. So,
yep.
But I appreciate that sentiment. So for someone who recognizes, you know, that they are in this trap, it looks like a mountain to climb, man. Where do you start?
So I think it depends on the layers and how large the org or small the org. If you're in a smaller org, and so when you're in a smaller org, you say you're 5 people, 10 people. I mean, you're 1/5 or 1/10 of the culture of the business. So you can do a whole lot more here. I would recommend taking the operating principles and doing the exercise of who are the people I love working with the most, especially if you're running, if you're in anywhere in the leadership team. Say, who are the people we like working with the most? Who are the people like we wish we could just replicate? Write down the behaviors and come with the team and say, and move from a value first. Well, sorry, I'll use the word values. I don't mean it in that way. Move from a wordless, definite, like a non-behavior first model into a behavior first model. And that would be a really good start. And define values instead of by words, but with specific behaviors so people know, oh, this is what good looks like. It gives clarity. I would start there. If you're a bit low, if you're like a large organization, or this can go for the smaller one too. But if you're like in a different organization, you're one of the layers, so you're a manager. I love this sentiment and statement, and if you do this a few times, it will transform the lives of the people that work for you. And it's to say, hey, this is 51% you. You own the success. You own the failure. Do what you think's best. And then let them fail. And in a loving way, like, hey, I think it should be this way. It's like, well, I think it should be this way. It's like, hey, if you think it's that way, execute. And when they fail, say, I still believe in you. I know that you have this. Make these tweaks. Let's execute again. You still own 51%. And the act of someone saying, I see your failure and you're still enough, transforms lives. I mean, it is a power beyond any work you can do. It will transform your lives here and at home.
Oh man. So I'm thinking of a leader that believes wholeheartedly in what we're talking about here, but there has not been a culture of transparency, a culture of trust, a culture of psychological safety. And what I've seen is leaders will jump in, like they love the idea and they do what you just said, right? On the other side of that, that person's like, oh, this is new. How do I know, like, the things that are in play, like, have changed? Like, how do I know that the culture, like, so what can a leader do? Like, what does a leader need to do to show that's like, I'm serious about this? Like, I know we've said some stuff in the past, right?
Time and tenure. Like, there is no, like, it's just like, it'd be, hey, like, it's things that I'm very big on this one. And this is, again, read the book, 5 Functions of a Team and The Advantage. And some of this will come out. One of the things is, and I'm a big believer in this, and if this happens a few times and you're done, like this just happened in Super the other day, is if we make a decision as the team and we walk out of that room as a leadership team and it's done. Unless we are disagreeing, and if it's done. And it's one of these, hey, someone comes, well, I don't really think, is like, you didn't speak up. It was your opportunity to speak up. You didn't have conflict. Like, you failed. I expect you to use your voice. I need you to use your voice. You have more influence than you think. I need you to use your voice. But what's not acceptable is for you to, after we've made a decision, to say, well, I thought we should have done. And you just you say that one time publicly, and then it's how you fire and how you hire. And if you were ever to, because what this will read again, guys, read 5 Functions of a Team. Sometimes that ends up too, they will like, hey, you're not on the team because you're not willing to speak up in a con. And you do that. That's how many time and tenure you have these. If you're willing to fire around behaviors of that person didn't speak up in a meeting and then criticize, like these specific behaviors, like, holy crap, they're serious. That person was talking bad. And like, if you went to hey, I hear you have a problem with Chris. Does Chris know you have a problem with him? No. By the end of the week, go reconcile with Chris. If you're not able to do that, let me know. We can mediate together. Are you willing to meet with him by the end of the week? No. I'm going to reiterate this. If you're not willing to meet with Chris, you're saying, I don't want to work with Super, because we will, I'm not here to triangulate. You have an issue. You need to speak to him. And if you can't do that, then you can't work here. And that's what it takes from a leader. And you do that. It will take one time. You will end up in that. You do that one time. Everybody's like, holy crap.
Yeah. We never said it was going to be easy.
Yeah, this is not easy change because you've in many ways you created the beast, and sometimes there are and that person will remember that, and you will change their life more by them. Oh, that's that important. It is a good thing. It is not a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, man. I appreciate you so much for stepping up and, sharing the knowledge here. We know a lot of people need it out there. There's a path, folks. Like if you're stuck in this trap or any of these traps we talk about, like the whole point is to create a path out. And because you need it, right? If you exist in these traps for much longer, it's going to be very hard to be successful. So we're going to keep going on this. In a little bit, I'll be hanging out with Danielle Urban talking about the measurement trap.
We talked a little bit about that. I like it.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, man. So many KPIs are at the heart of why we don't change. It's kind of crazy. So we'll dive into that. And then tomorrow we're going to be with Tony Dowling talking about the authority trap. And so thank you, Matt. Everyone, map where these pressures of conformity might be preventing your team's authentic potential, growth, innovation, breakthroughs from emerging. And share your experiences in the comments. And until next time, thanks so much, Matt.
Adios, everybody.